Well, I mean, I did a book in 2003, and I suppose I enjoyed the experience along with Kieran Shannon, another man from this neck of the woods. And then just at the end of last year, a few different people asked me about the idea of writing another book, and I always thought at some stage I would do, so didn't really intend to do it just then. But then when the encouragement came along, I said I'd go ahead and do it, and then I struck up with Mick Foley here, and we built up a good relationship, and spent the most of the 2009 putting it together.
I suppose the ideal situation would have been to release it as Brian Cody did as an All-Ireland winning manager. Unfortunately that didn't pan out. What are your thoughts on the year just gone?
Well, I suppose ideally that would be the Alice in Wonderland finish. You get your All-Ireland and everything's well, but maybe in another way it's great to see that life can be very ordinary too, and that things don't always work out the way you want to. So maybe that's an ending that more people, it'll resonate with more people. But on reflection, obviously we were disappointed in the year. We had made our way into the semi-final without probably playing particularly well, and we thought that's a good place to be. If you can get to that stage without showing your best, then it's time to turn the button on, and we didn't quite do that. Or maybe we met a Cork team who had their engine well tuned that day. So it's a bit of both of that, both of those things. Cork were very well up for our game. We probably were not playing at our best compared to recent years, and when you get that combination together, there's only one winner, and there was only one winner.
I suppose you've heard it a lot of times since then that Tyrone were beaten at their own game. A lot of people seem to think. Have you analysed the game any bit since?
Well, I mean, I think that's an easy explanation, if I would put it that way. I don't think we're beating our own game, because I think if we'd played our own game, would have been better opposition. So we were playing our own game poorly, if we put it that way. If we played our own game to the top of our potential, then it would have been a very interesting encounter. But I'd have to say, I suppose you can see why people would think like that. Cork played with a serious energy that day, and an enthusiasm, and a sort of a combined team effort that was very hard to deal with, and too hard for us on the day. And that's what happens sometimes. You have to accept life that will deal you those hands. And
were you surprised then, having seen how intense Cork were that day, that they didn't go on to win the All-Ireland?
I certainly was. I mean, I'd written in the paper about it before. I really tipped Cork to do it, based on what I'd seen them do right beside us on the field, I suppose based on their season up to that point, where they'd won their Division 2 and won it with a bit to spare, and had come through all obstacles on the way to get to that place. I thought that they would definitely do it this time, but they probably didn't play as well on the day as they did against us, and I suppose Kerry are Kerry, and always hard to beat,
And do you think there's any substance to the way people say that Cork have a mental block about playing Kerry in Croke Park, the same way Kerry perhaps have a thing about trying to beat you?
Well, I suppose people are quickly jump to conclusions and say a trend here, a trend there. All we can do is look at the facts, and the facts are, I suppose, in recent times, Cork have not had good results against Kerry and Croke Park, while they have had in other places. I suppose in the recent past, we have been able to work well in our encounters with Kerry in Croke Park in the Championship. That's the facts that we have to go on. Now, those things, those trends and those statistics are only on the way to being changed somewhere. Yeah. So, Cork can change theirs, Kerry can change the one that we have with them at any given time. So another game could knock that trend on the head. So we're only always one game away from redirecting the history.
Down here in Cork, we like to think that we're getting closer and closer to an All-Ireland title. Looking at it maybe from an outsider's point of view, do you think that there is maybe a big three now at the top, Kerry, Tyrone and Cork?
Again, this is what people will come to these conclusions. For a while it was Kerry, Tyrone and Armagh, and then maybe Dublin were always tipping around the top table there, and nobody else, I suppose, has consistently come into the top bracket of names. But I guess definitely Cork now are up there as a team that people will be looking to win in All-Ireland, if not the coming year, then pretty soon, because they seem to have the armoury to do that. Their under-21 success will stand to them. They have that mix of experience and youth now, and I suppose the experience of losing last year will always drive them on to better things.
And another guy who brought a book out lately was Ty Kennelly, and he mentioned in that how he went for Nicholas Murphy, who's from Carrigaline here, in the opening minute. Would you have any thoughts on what he said and his subsequent, I suppose, denial of his own words?
Well, I suppose all you could say is that the language used around the incident wasn't very proper, I suppose, in this case. I think, that it could have, if different language was used, and people do often say you lay down a marker at the start of a game, you lay it down within the rules of the game, you don't would ever ask your players to lay it down in a nasty fashion. I suppose this particular tackle had all the appearances of being a bit nasty, and I suppose then that only resurrected that sort of angst in the book form, so while again I'd say he would regret the way it's been described and probably never intended to hit Nicholas on the jaw with his shoulder as it turned out to be. Probably would like to hit him a good shoulder and sort of ruffle him up that way. So I'd say if things had gone the way he probably would have liked them to have gone, that's what would have happened. He'd give him a good shake up with a decent shoulder, not the one that happened, and then there wouldn't be this controversy. But that's what happens sometimes.
And have you given next year's championship much thought, or are you kind of in downtime mode for the winter now?
No, you're never in downtime mode when you're with the county team, because when one season's over you're looking to the next. If you've won, you have to say, well, how can we do this again and better? If you haven't, then you have to say, where can we learn from what went on? So immediately we lost to Cork, the focus was right on, when's the next chance we get playing in this team, and hopefully that's coming pretty soon now, and as we get out in the McKenna Cup and begin to see what we can do again for a new season. But you always look forward to what's coming, and I think your mind never goes off the next game.
And there's been a lot of debate lately about maybe the format of the championship, with some people wanting maybe an end to the backdoor system. Have you any thoughts on what you'd like to see?
Yeah, not an end to it, just an adjustment to it. I think I've said it now for a number of months and maybe even a year or more. Let's adjust it back to the provincial champions play each other in the old style of Ireland semi-final. The two winners go straight through, the two losers get a second chance, and only two qualifiers reach that status. Therefore, you're making the qualifiers a more dangerous place to go. You're giving more credence to the people who win their provincial titles, and actually you're playing the game a lot fairer. When you look at the facts of the matter, Dublin are the only team in 5 years that haven't had a second chance. And they've been very successful in those 5 years, winning 5 successive provincial titles and never got one second chance. That cannot be a fair system, and it doesn't take much to fix it. We've got the world to